I bought my house for the peace and quiet. It was tucked at the end of a cul-de-sac, away from the chaos of the city. The house had an extra wide garage, a feature I was particularly proud of since I restore vintage motorcycles as a hobby. What I didn't account for was the wah Karen who lived 3 doors down. Her name was Linda, and she was the self-proclaimed neighborhood coordinator. Everyone else just called her Karen behind her back, and soon, so would I. The setup. My first few months in the neighborhood were uneventful. I minded my business, paid my dues, and waved politely when walking my dog, Max. But I noticed Linda's eyes following me like a hawk every time I did something. Painting my fence, she'd remind me to check the wall color palette. Replacing my mailbox, she'd send me a printout of the approved design guide. It was annoying, but I tried to be civil. That is, until she crossed a line. The borrowed garage. One Saturday, I was hosting a small cookout in my backyard for a few friends. The garage door was open because I'd been showing off one of my freshly restored bikes, a 1969 Triumph Bonneville. Around sunset, we heard the rumble of an SUV pulling into my driveway. Out stepped Linda in her floral blouse, hair perfectly sprayed into a helmet of curls. She gave a little wave as she marched up. "Hi, Tom," she said cheerily. "I hope you don't mind. My nephew is visiting for the weekend, and there's no parking left on the street. Could he park in your garage tonight?" Before I could even respond, she turned and shouted to someone in the SUV, "It's fine, just pull in." The silver Honda rolled right into my garage. I blinked in disbelief. Linda, I don't think." "Oh, don't be silly," she interrupted. "It's just one night. You have so much space, and we're neighbors. We help each other out in this community." My friends exchanged looks. One of them whispered, "Did she seriously just?" I took a deep breath. "Linda, I have tools and personal equipment in there." "It's not really." She waved a dismissive hand. "You'll be fine. I'll tell him not to touch anything. Thanks so much, dear." And with that, she strutted off as if she had done me a favor. That night, I barely slept. The sheer audacity of her move gnawed at me. But I decided to let it slide once. Maybe she'd realize it was rude and not do it again. Spoiler. She did it again. And again. The repeat offense. Over the next month, I found her nephew's car, her husband's truck, and once even her own SUV parked in my garage without warning. Sometimes, I'd come home from work to find my garage door closed and someone else's car inside. When I confronted her, she always had an excuse. "You weren't using it anyway. It's temporary, don't be such a stickler. We're all neighbors here, you need to show community spirit." Community spirit, my foot. Then one Friday morning, I went out to grab my toolbox before heading to work, and found my workbench knocked over, a box of motorcycle parts missing, and a dent in my Triumph's tank. I was furious. I marched to her door and knocked hard. Linda opened it, pretending to look surprised. "Oh, Tom, everything okay? You know exactly what this is about," I said through gritted teeth. "Your nephew messed with my stuff. My bike's damaged." She rolled her eyes. "Boys will be boys. I'm sure it's not that bad. It's a $900 dent." I snapped. "Tell him to move the car and stay out of my garage." She crossed her arms, her tone turning icy. "If you weren't so territorial, maybe we could have avoided all this. You're part of a homeowners association now, Tom. Shared community values, shared resources." I stared at her. "My garage is not a shared resource." She smirked. "Well, we'll see what the law says." The law hearing. A week later, I received a letter from the law board, apparently at Linda's request, claiming I was creating conflict by refusing reasonable accommodation for parking shortages. I laughed out loud. She was trying to use the law to steal my garage. I attended the next law meeting, ready to defend myself. The board president, a mild man named Jerry, looked uncomfortable as Linda launched into her complaint. "Tom's garage has extra space that could help the community," she said sweetly. "I've only asked to use it occasionally, but he's been extremely rude and confrontational." When it was my turn, I kept calm. "I have surveillance footage," I said, setting my phone on the table. "It shows her and her family entering my garage multiple times without permission. My property was damaged. This isn't about sharing. it's about trespassing. The room went quiet. Jerry cleared his throat. Well, that does sound serious. Linda's face flushed red. This is harassment, she barked. He's exaggerating. But the footage didn't lie. The HOA dropped the issue, and Jerry sent a memo reminding everyone that private garages were private property. I thought that was the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. The final straw. About 2 months later, I left early one morning for a work trip, only to realize halfway down the interstate that I'd forgotten my laptop charger. I turned back to grab it. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw, you guessed it, Linda's SUV parked inside my garage again. Steam practically shot out of my ears. I got out, marched up to her door, and pounded until she opened it. Linda, why? I demanded. She sighed dramatically. Tom, the neighborhood had a bake sale today and parking was full. I told you, this is just neighborly cooperation. That's it, I said. You've officially lost your mind. She smirked. You're free to complain, but everyone knows you're difficult. The HOA won't side with you twice. I didn't argue. I just smiled. All right, Linda, enjoy your bake sale. Then I turned and walked away, because I had an idea. Revenge, served cold and locked. That evening, after I made sure her SUV was still there, I backed my truck out, closed the garage door, and engaged the heavy-duty lock I'd installed after the last incident. Then I packed my bags, grabbed Max, and left for my 2-week vacation to Colorado. No calls, no messages, no garage access for anyone. Before I left, I even called the HOA office and informed them, in writing, that I'd be out of town and no one was authorized to enter my property under any circumstances. Just covering my bases. I didn't hear anything for the first 3 days. But by day 4, my phone started blowing up. First, a call from Linda, which I ignored. Then 3 more. Then voicemails. Greater than, Tom, this isn't funny. I need my car. My husband has work. Open your garage immediately. If you don't open this door, I'll have the HOA fine you for obstruction. I sat by the campfire, roasting marshmallows, smiling at every ping. The fallout. By day 7, the tone of her messages changed. Greater than, please, Tom, we're sorry. Can we just talk? The HOA says it's your property, but we really need the car. I'll pay for the scratch on your bike, okay. Just let me in. I stayed silent. Day 10. Jerry from the HOA called me directly. Tom, he said awkwardly, Linda's SUV is in your garage, right? Yup, she's been demanding we open it, but we can't touch private property. I just wanted to confirm you're aware. I'm aware, I said cheerfully. And I'll be back in a few days. He chuckled under his breath. Well, technically, you're within your rights. She shouldn't have been there. Day 14, I came home. The second I pulled up, I saw Linda standing in my driveway, arms crossed, face bright red. You trapped my car. She shouted as I stepped out. I locked my property, I corrected. You parked illegally. This is kidnapping. Or, car napping. She sputtered. I almost laughed. Actually, it's trespassing. Want to see the footage? She huffed. Demanded I open it immediately. I did. Slowly, letting her simmer as the door creaked upward. Her SUV sat inside, covered in a fine layer of dust, with a small note taped to the windshield. Greater than, next time, ask first. She grabbed the note, crumpled it, and stormed off without a word. But that wasn't the end, because I wasn't done yet. The consequences. A week later, I filed a small claims case for property damage and unauthorized use of private space. I attached the old footage, repair receipts, and the HOA memo proving my ownership rights. The judge didn't even need an hour. Linda was ordered to pay for the bike damage, plus a small fine for trespassing. When word spread through the neighborhood, people started distancing themselves from her. Turns out, I wasn't her first victim, just the first one to stand up to her. She had borrowed tools, shared driveways, and even, temporarily, used other people's patio furniture. Nobody had called her out before because she always used that community excuse. Now everyone knew better. The HOA even quietly removed her from the Neighborhood Coordination Committee. Jerry sent me an email later that week. Greater than, Tom, just wanted to say, That was impressive. We've all had enough of her antics. Enjoy your garage in peace. And I did. The aftermath. Months went by. Linda avoided me like the plague, which was perfectly fine. I focused on my bikes, enjoyed quiet weekends, and even started dating again, something that had been impossible with all the HOA drama. Every now and then, I'd catch her walking her little poodle past my house, giving me that same death glare. I'd wave politely, just to twist the knife. The garage. I installed a keypad lock and a camera with motion alerts. No more surprises. One evening, Jerry stopped by while I was polishing my Triumph. You know, he said, chuckling, Linda tried to propose a new rule about community garage sharing. It didn't even get a vote. We both laughed. Guess she didn't learn, I said. Or maybe she did, Jerry replied. After all, she hasn't parked anywhere near your house since. Epilogue. Sweet justice. A few months later, I got a letter in the mail, from Linda. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. It read, greater than, Dear Tom, I want to apologize for how things escalated last year. I overstepped, and I understand now that I was wrong. I've been trying to do better. Thank you for setting boundaries, even if it was dramatic. Sincerely, Linda. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger or shouting, it's just letting people live with the consequences of their own entitlement. As I rolled my Triumph out for a weekend ride, I smiled, remembering the look on her face when that garage door lifted. Maybe next time she'd think twice before parking where she didn't belong.